Alrighty, so we're gonna call to order the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, April 8th, 2026. Are we all good to keep going, Lucas? Okay. So next up on the agenda, we'll do the native lands acknowledgement. COCC would like to acknowledge the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original homelands of the Bosco and the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the U.S. government in the Treaty of 1855. The Paiute people were forcibly moved to Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our community today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. Okay, and we'll move to the next agenda item, which is roll call.
Erica Scapple.
Here.
Jim Porter.
Here.
Laura Kraska Cooper.
Here.
Joe Prinowitz. I assume he's on his way.
He said he would call in until 6.
Okay.
So he should be here soon.
Okay. Aaron Mercy.
Here.
Aaron Footmore.
Here.
Alan Unger.
Here.
Greg Pereira.
Here.
Michael Rolland.
Here.
Alicia Moore.
Here.
Anne Marie Hamlin.
Here.
Zach Boone. Here. And Laura Bomey.
Here.
Amanda Bevington Drungle.
Here.
Did I say your last name right?
You did.
Yes. All right. I'm gonna ask you. Debbie Hart.
Here.
Paul Taylor. Here. Kyle Matthews. Here. Good to go.
All right, thank you, Lucas. Next on the agenda are any agenda changes? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. And the reason why we're moving quickly through this part is because we have a very long agenda today with a lot of guests. So we're hoping to get to them because that's the fun part. So next up on in information items, we have the All Oregon Academic Team. So welcome.
I don't know where it's best for us to stand up. Okay. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. Love being the fun part of an agenda. I know.
Okay.
My name is Amanda Bevington Drungle, she, her pronouns, and I am the Assistant Director of Admissions and Records here. And one piece of my role, and a really fun part of my role, is that I get to facilitate and coordinate COCC's selection process of our All Oregon Academic Team. This has been something that's been going on long before me, and so some people might be familiar, but some people might be new in the room or be unfamiliar. So before I dive into a little bit about what All Oregon Academic Team is, I just want to say, this is one of the highlights of my role. It's a privilege to have gotten to know in a small way and be such a small part of these 4 students' COCC journey. They are truly rock stars, and you will get a glimpse of that tonight. So I'm really excited to bring that to you today. The All Oregon Academic Team is a statewide recognition, and it honors high-achieving community college students that demonstrate not only academic excellence, but also leadership and meaningful community contribution. It's a part of a broader national effort to highlight the impact and importance of community college students across the country. So next week, we're here tonight, which is a big part of the recognition. And then next week, we'll be heading to Salem on Friday for a luncheon where they'll be recognized and honored alongside their peers. So really looking forward to the traveling of that. All 4 of them are able to make it, which is really exciting. So today, without further ado, I'm going to just highlight their name, and then I will talk a little bit about the selection process and turn it over to hear from their nominators directly, and then also from the students themselves, which will be the true treat. But we have Amanda Payne, we have Talia Stockwell, Colton Sachs, and Julian Hasman right there. Yeah, so that's the 4 students that we're here to recognize tonight. To be considered for the All Oregon Academic Team, students do need to submit an application The application highlights their campus and their community involvement, as well as academic honors, their leadership experience, and what makes them unique. They also need to, part of their application, they need to submit a nomination letter. So the nominators that are here tonight to kind of speak to these students and their experiences are the people that submitted their nomination letters, which is exciting. Our applications are reviewed by a 3-person selection committee. I'm not part of that committee. And this year we did have a record number of applications of just under 50. So it was highly competitive in the selection process. So we're fortunate, like I said, to have many of the nominators here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to them. And then the nominators will share a little bit, and then the students will share a little bit about themselves and their COCC highlights. And without further ado, we'll kick it off with Carmen and Amanda.
Let's come over here to the corner. Okay, hi, I'm Carmen Gully. I'm the nursing department chair. And in the nursing program, as you can imagine, we have lots of high achieving, scoring students. And so for Amanda to have stood out to the extent that she has is really telling of just what an incredibly special student she is and special person she is. So Amanda not only excels academically and in her clinical practice and patient care, but she also has this way of quiet, humble leadership and really just bringing people together in a genuine way. That's so impressive. She also just has one of the most beautiful, positive, kind and loving spirits. So I'm really excited to see where she goes with all of that and all the ways, both big and small, she's going to make a positive impact on her community. And then I need to say too, with my background as a former staff nurse in the St. Charles Family Birth Center, I'm especially excited to find out that she just got her capstone placement in the St. Charles Neonatal Intensive Care.
Great, so thank you for that. My name's Amanda. Let's see, what about me? So I've actually been in Ben since 2017. I'm gonna give you a little bit of my emotional backstory, just for the fun of the story. I come from Portland and I was a bit of a workaholic. I started in management at 17, which is awesome, but when you start that young, that becomes your entire life. So I kind of worked myself into a rough spot, and I was like, I'm gonna die young if I don't like change things up. And so in 2017, I kind of had a wake up call, and I was like, let's go somewhere that I love. And I grew up vacationing in Bend, Oregon. So packed my bags, left everything I've ever known, came to Bend, which is only 3 hours away. It's not that big of a deal, but for me, it was a big deal coming from a small town. And I actually first applied to COCC in 2018, and I was like, I took my placement test, and I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're doing something good. Life happened again, and so I took a break. Came back in 2023, yeah, something like that. Knocked out a year of prereqs, found, kind of reinvigorated my dream to become a nurse and work in the medical field and help people. And specifically, I'd love to help the littlest of ones fight the best fight. And so started the nursing program 2 years ago. I graduate in June. Take the NCLEX and my ultimate goal is, I mean, if anyone works or in St. Charles, is to get a job at St. Charles to start, solidify my skills. Ultimately, I'd love to pursue further education and become a nurse educator myself, long term. She might not have known that. And that I've always wanted to be a teacher, but as I progressed through my schooling and found what I've really enjoyed and been blessed with like the most incredible instructors who ever hired me, nursing faculty are like, they're so amazing. And I would love to be able to be a part of that team and give back to all the students just as they would.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Carmen and Amanda. Okay, next we have Colton, and Colton's nominator, Lexi Constantino couldn't be here. So I am going to read a little blurb on their behalf. So this is Colton, and Lexi, his nominator, shares that Colton has consistently been one of the highest achieving students they've encountered at COCC, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while taking an exceptionally challenging course load, including physics, chemistry, linear algebra, and engineering courses, often going beyond what is required simply out of curiosity and a desire to learn more. He is described as a leader and an innovator, notably leading a team project in engineering where he helped design and build a digital calorie that so intelligent with a Python-based interface and 3D printed components. His faculty member also notes his ability to step into leadership when teammates needed is additionally outstanding. Beyond the classroom, Colton is recognized for his initiative and ambition, including pursuing an independent study in quantum mechanics, typically a senior or graduate level topic to prepare for future undergraduate research. He is also involved in a wide range of research, leadership, and service experiences across campus and the community, reflecting a strong commitment to learning, collaboration, and impact. Overall, Lexi describes him as a standout student and emerging leader and offered the strongest possible recommendation for the All-Oregon academic team.
Yeah, so before I came to COCC, I actually spent like less than a quarter at the University of Washington studying computer science because I thought that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't like it so much. So I decided to come down here where my friends are, and I got a place with them, and it was really fun. And so to kind of fill the time, I decided to enroll at COCC, and I didn't really expect, I think, how great the instructors would be, and I think that's probably my number one like appreciation for the school, because you know at big university is always like research first and learning second, and that was kind of a bummer. So being able to learn from instructors who put the teaching first and you know don't really care about the research aspect as much was really inspiring, and kind of decided to go into engineering, but it turned out the engineering professors have backgrounds in physics, so they kind of convinced me that physics is more fun. And I like them now. Yeah, now I'm studying physics and I really enjoy it. And hopefully one day I can do research. Don't really know like what subfield I want to go into yet. But yeah, just excited.
Okay, we'll do Julian or John.
Okay. This is the kind of spot, sure.
Yeah,
Come over
get up
here.
here, get
All
up
right,
here.
That's okay, it's all good. All right, so I'm Sean Roberts. I'm a professor in our addictions counseling and behavioral health program. And Julian is a student in our program, also been a recipient of our Oregon Health Authority grant, our HRSA federal grant, and was my student lead on our Central Oregon Health Council binge drinking grant. Julian is working to make a difference, helping people in need in the trenches and addictions. And Julian is a published author and amazing with words, so I had to write what I was going to say. Because there's no way I can come close to capturing Julian without writing out the words. So Julian, I want to take a moment to recognize something truly special about you. You are a student who is deeply invested in both your personal and professional growth. That commitment shows in everything you do. You approach learning not just as a requirement, but as an opportunity to better understand yourself and the world around you. What stands out even more is the kindness and support you consistently offer others. You create space for others to feel heard, valued, and respected, which is no small thing. And perhaps most remarkable is your gift with words. You have an incredible ability to express your thoughts and lived experiences with honesty and clarity, while also conveying deep empathy for others. Your writing doesn't just communicate, it connects, it validates, and it inspires. Julian, combination of your self-awareness, compassion, and voice is powerful. It will continue to make a meaningful impact on those around you. Thank you for being part of our community here at COCC.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that. It's hard for me to hear that stuff about myself, so I appreciate it. So my journey for COCC, I actually started at COCC in 2013, 2014, but ended up having a family, so I had to step back, and I didn't come back to COCC until 2024 fall term, and dived headfirst into the behavioral health and addiction counseling program, which has been really enlightening in more ways than one, and kind of inspired me to continue down this path after COCC. My ultimate goal is to become a licensed professional counselor. Obviously, I love writing too, but it feels like more of my calling to help people in their hardest moments, but also in their triumphs, and just be a present force that believes in them. And I think really what I've appreciated the most about being here and in this program specifically is instructors like Sean that just push me and believe in me and have highlighted my own strengths and my capabilities to do this when I've really doubted myself. And that's been one of the hardest hurdles and continues to be one of the hardest things for me to overcome, is knowing that I can do this, knowing that I'm smart enough, that I'm capable enough. Mostly thank you.
And then I'll end with Tess and Talia. Hi, everybody. My name is Tess Schaefer. I'm a professor here in writing and English, and I had the ultimate honor of having Talia in the first class I ever taught at COCC last fall. So I also had to write my speech down. I'll just say a few words about the amazing Talia. I know many of you have met them already many times. So it's my privilege to take a few minutes to celebrate Talia Stockwell, a student who genuinely embodies the spirit of this recognition. I met Talia in Composition 1 this past fall, and from day one, they brought something special. A warmth, a sharp curiosity, a level of intellectual engagement that's genuinely rare. Their research project tackled a bold argument that American-centric scholarship has fundamentally misread Chinese soft power on the global stage. Drawing on years of Chinese language and culture study, Talia brought real depth and rigor to that analysis, and the essay earned first prize in academic nonfiction at the COCC Student Writing Contest last year. But Talia's contributions, as you know, extend well beyond the classroom. As president of the Asian Cultures Club, they organized events like the campus-wide Lunar New Year celebration and origami crane stations across COCC campuses. As student body president, they've supported our network of clubs, helped manage the student food bank, and coordinate events that foster connection and joy in our community. However, what makes Talia exceptional isn't just their talent. It's their commitment to research and thinking as processes, the care they bring to every stage of the work they do, and an intellectual curiosity that drives them to ask deeper questions and follow them wherever they lead. They listen generously, engage others' ideas with genuine curiosity, and have a gift for lifting the thinking and the spirits of everyone around them. Talia is the kind of student who changes the quality of a room simply by being in it. So please join me in congratulating them and our others on this well-deserved recognition.
I started my journey here at COCC 4 years ago as a non-credit student taking one class. I had enrolled in COCC after I finished the 2 years of Chinese offered in my high school program. And self-learning wasn't really taking me that far, so I put on a brave face and I started taking a college class in my senior year. And I didn't expect at that time, as someone who swore not to go to college because it was a waste of money and I didn't know how it worked, I decided to pursue higher education. And now, 2 years later, as a full-time student, I'm finishing up a transfer degree in economics. And next fall, I'm going to be transferring to University of Oregon to study their planning, public policy, and management program. And from there, I hope to pursue my goal of becoming a climate and disaster resilience planner. And I have so much to say about this college. The support that I have gotten from here, from Tess, from the staff here, and from my Chinese teacher, Lin Hong, was what pushed me to become who I am today. And I am so thankful to be here and to be able to speak to you and to be in higher education. So thank you.
And then maybe just like one more big round of applause. We have, thank you for, I know it's a packed agenda, so thank you for some time to recognize these awesome students and for the nominators for being here in person today.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, so good. I love your son. Okay. What a wonderful showcase of some of our outstanding students and instructors. Okay, so next up, we are moving on to new business. First up, we have faculty recognition. And then we have tenure, promotion, sabbatical, emeritus status for retiring, and Anne Marie is going to take us through.
I will.
Okay.
So from fabulous students to the fabulous faculty who support and nurture their learning at COCC. It's at the April board meeting that we have a tradition of celebrating faculty achievements. And we are seeking tonight your affirmation, board members, of their achievement by approval of the resolutions that are in your board packet. I want you to know that all tenure, promotion, and emeritus candidates go through an extensive review by their peers who read their entire files and make evaluations on the deservedness of this recognition. They look through these for the tenure and promotion committees. Sabbatical recipients are chosen through the work of the Professional Improvement Resource Team. This is a team faculty committee, again, dedicated to the work of supporting professional development of faculty. As you will see, COCC attracts and retains really outstanding groups of faculty. I am so proud of them, and I love this moment to celebrate their achievements. I may have taken this in a different order than your board packet has, so forgive me for that. But what I thought we'd do is go through each of the separate resolutions, and you can maybe make your decision based on at the end of each one. So I'm going to start with promotion of faculty. Some of our promotion candidates are with us tonight, as are some of our tenure candidates. Some of them are also waiting for all of us, some of us down at the bottom of the hill and celebrate their broken heart. At which I will join them in a little while. All right, so our promotions candidates, we are recommending to move from assistant professor 1 to assistant professor 2, 7 excellent faculty. Lexi Costantino, who was one of the nominators for Colton, was the nominator for Colton, teaches in physics and engineering. Stephen Foldy teaches in the biology department. Gabriel Franco joined the manufacturing technology department a few years ago and is nominated for promotion as well. Molly Markland is here with us. Has been teaching at Cascade Culinary Institute since 2023. Stephanie O'Brien has been here with us for quite some time, starting in part-time adjunct positions, moving her way through, and is now being promoted to assistant professor 2. Anthony Rosso teaches in the writing and humanities department, teaching writing of various types. And Amy Chapin, who joined the faculty in 2023, is one of our nursing instructors. So these 7 candidates, I recommend for promotion to assistant professor 2. We have 5 faculty moving from assistant professor 2 to associate professor. Sarah Barron, in health and human performance, more specifically teaches in our public health program. She is a rock star in that area. Teresa Deschaux joined COCC as a biology faculty member in 2018. Melinda Giswali joined in 2015 as a nursing faculty member, joining Amy Chapin, who I mentioned earlier. Lisa Shipman joined the aviation department in 2018, now serves as our program director for that program. And Rodney Van Ortsdal joined in 2019. He teaches paramedics and emergency medical services. And finally, but definitely not least, we have 6 faculty that we recommend for promotion to professor. Angie Cole
teaches in the ECE education program, has been with us since 2014. Meredith Humphreys teaches biology. I wanted to pull out something from her file, cares for all living things in very important ways. She works with plants and animals, and she's a wonderful person. It was just a fun little tidbit from her file. Beth Palmer is the program director for the Vet Tech program, which is housed in Redmond and has been with us since 2013, has really helped grow that program. And Dr. Michael Wallet teaches anthropology, began with us in 2014, a well-respected faculty member in that discipline. Shannon Waller is here as well. Joined us in 2010, has helped lead the medical assisting program, pharmacy tech before that, has also chaired 2 different departments at the college. And Kristen Dorsey, one of my former colleagues from the humanities department, started at COCC in 2014. She has taught writing and literature for many years. She is also the faculty lead for the Center for Advancing Faculty Excellence. I recommend these faculty to you on behalf of the Faculty Promotions Committee, and I will let you make your decision on that. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Directors of Central Oregon Community College promote the faculty as recommended by the promotion committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to say I'm really proud of our faculty and listening to everything I've heard so far tonight, so this is a no-brainer.
Yes, okay, wonderful, okay. So all those in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was everyone, and Joe still hasn't joined us online, so. Okay, awesome, so okay, approved. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to all.
Yes, congratulations. Our faculty tenure committee is recommending 4 faculty for tenure. The tenure process is similar to the promotion process. I forgot to tell you, promotions committee members evaluate files based on a faculty member's teaching and advising excellence, their professional development in pursuit of ongoing continuous improvement in their own work, as well as service to both the college and the community. Tenure focuses a little bit more on the primary assignment, so teaching and advising and professional development, but these other things matter too. So we have, as I said, 4 candidates, and their bios are in your packet as well. Carmen Ingulli, who was here earlier, introducing her students for the All of Oregon team. Chairs our nursing department. I believe you've heard from her before. Abby Giara is an associate professor in economics, has been with us for a number of years as well, and has really transformed the way our students think about economics, with his emphasis on Gandhian economics. Roxy Saplee, another standout among our faculty, associate professor too of criminal justice. She directs the program in criminal justice and has done some wonderful things, bringing that program forward. Marilyn Waller-Niewald is with us tonight as well. Marilyn is assistant professor too in allied health and serves as an instructor in our medical assisting program. Had a wonderful long storied career before that and has brought her skills and talents to COCC. So on behalf of the faculty tenure committee, I recommend these candidates to you. Thank you, Marie. Do you want me to have them?
I'll move that the Board of Directors approve the tenure to the individuals just identified.
Thank you, Laura.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Erin. So moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All right, so all those in favor, please say aye and or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Joe has joined from a galaxy far away. Welcome, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
That was the whole board, so none opposed. Congratulations. Yes. Nice. Okay, and next up is emeritus status. So speaking of longstanding excellence in faculty leadership,
Emeritus status is granted to those faculty who are retiring and have served at least 15 years at the college. And that is verified by the promotions committee reading through their files, as well as the Human Resources Department confirming the status of their employment. We have several faculty for you tonight. Chuck Hutchings has taught in our Spanish department for many years. Sean Rule, as you know, he's spoken with the board before, has taught in our math department. Michael Gesney, I'm sure you have been to some of our symphony concerts, is our maestro and master of music. Carson Horry, also a longtime strong faculty member in the Computer and Information Systems department. Nathan Hopekamp has taught biology for many years for COCC and will be retiring along with his colleagues. Ricky Burke, also a longtime faculty member in the Health and Human Performance department. And finally, Kat Finney. I think Kat Finney might rival some of the long-standing members of the staff at COCC. She has worked in our library, Barber Library, for I think it's close to 30 years. So I recommend these candidates to you for emeritus status.
So we have these listed under the promotions.
Are they there too? I had a separate paper, but it is also, then they are chosen by their, recommended by the promotion.
Okay, so emeritus status approval for retiring faculty.
Yes.
Okay. We're on the same page now.
Okay.
Okay.
I can do this one.
Okay.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Central Oregon Community College District approves emeritus status for retiring faculty members Chuck Hutchings, Sean Rule, Michael Gesney, Carson Horry. Okay, Nathan Hopekamp, Ricky Burke, and Kat Finney.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye and or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, and none opposed, because that was all of us. Congratulations. Congratulations to our faculty.
Finally, I bring to you an information item about sabbaticals that have been recommended to be awarded for next year. I don't believe you have to vote on these, but I would like you to know about them. Sabbatical is a really important aspect of faculty life, professionally and personally. I've had a couple of these in my lifetime before I came to COCC. I could attest to the value of time spent researching and exploring new ideas that one can bring back to the classroom and enrich our students' experiences. The other aspect of sabbatical that I like to remind our faculty about is that rest and relaxation is a critical aspect of one's sabbatical time. So I always hope that our faculty not only dedicate themselves to their research, but to take real time for themselves. So we have 4 to recommend. 4 is Cool. Okay, Sarah Barron, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, Professor of Public Health, plans to expand the community health worker program on her sabbatical, which will be 1 term next spring. Jackie Coe will take a 3-term sabbatical, and she is expanding her knowledge of mathematics education research and skills in emerging areas of mathematics. Owen Murphy, who you have seen many times, will have sabbatical in fall and winter of next year and is further pursuing his studies and research in sustainability in various areas of sustainability. And finally, we have Wendy Wampler, who teaches physics for us as well as astronomy. And her sabbatical project for next spring is to deepen her expertise in astronomy observational methods in current research. And this, of course, as with all the faculty members, will come back to our classrooms and enrich the experiences of our students at COCC.
We always like the presentations too.
Yes.
Come back and let us know.
Yeah. So thank you very much for your attention and interest and your celebration of our really excellent.
I think there's one more item.
Is there?
That's
Yes.
Laura Bowman's.
Laura Bowman's gonna do, okay.
Get that?
Just going through the papers. Thank you. Just have Anne Marie keep going.
I asked her earlier today if she'd be willing to do it.
It's not that I'm not willing, I just felt like I had a lot of stage time.
Yeah, it's okay, it's all good. Okay, so I just moved my stuff, so sorry. So I have the honor of presenting to you emeritus for our administrators. And similar to the faculty, these are folks that are in fact recommended by their own peers. And so I would like to, mention them and honor them. I think if I'm scanning the room, the only one that's physically here is Julie Downing. But we have Julie Downing, and I'll talk a little bit here about her in a second. But we have Julie Downing, Tina Holtkamp, Diana Callan-Quinn, and Kelly Smith. And all of these folks have been here and greater than 15 years. That is the requirement to be here at least 15 years. So you're eligible for the emeritus status. And so, sorry, let me get there. Okay, so Julie Downing, she has had a very wonderful background here and storied career at COCC, and she has been here. She is now the longest serving employee at COCC, and Kat Finney is very close to that as well. And Julie has been here since 1991, so a total of 35 years, 25 of those years as a faculty member, and the last 10 as instructional dean. And her contributions cannot be sufficiently numbered here in our meeting, but she's had a lot of effort and success in health and human performance, many activities beyond COCC. She's overseen the nursing department. She was a fellow of the American of Sports Medicine, and she was inducted into the NDSU Athletic Hall of Fame, and was awarded the COCC Faculty Achievement Award. And she's also served in a variety of roles on the faculty side and many committees and negotiations here at COCC. So I would love to give her a huge round of applause for all of her contributions. I want to give some time to the other folks that are not here, because they also have done a tremendous job, in serving here at the college. And so Tina Holtkamp, you may have noticed her husband is also retiring from the faculty side. She has been here for 29 years, and she also was a faculty. She was the associate college librarian, when she was initially hired, and then became the library director in 2013. She also oversees not only the library, but testing and tutoring. She was named the Administrative Employee of the Year in 2020. And Tina is an active leader in the state amongst the Orbis Cascade Alliance, which is the creme de la creme of librarians for all of those who want to know about that. And she's originally from Greece, and she has made also incredible contributions here at this college, and I'm grateful to call her a colleague. So when you see her, give her a hug. She also deserves a lot of kudos and well wishes. The next person, Diana Callan-Quinn, she's one of our academic advisors and has been here since 2008. Diana is a quiet contributor. She is, and probably Alicia has more to offer on Diana, but she has served so many of our students, and she's been on the curriculum committee, and she's been on various work groups. She's been a global career development facilitator, and she has just contributed in so many quiet ways to the success of our students. And so I'd like to honor her as well. Alicia, anything that you want to add? Okay. Kelly Smith, she was hired in 1997 as the COCC Director of Testing and Tutoring, and she has a passion for this work, and she has grown our tutoring and testing center, and she created a regional testing center for Central Oregon at COCC. So she's made available over here in our area, Central Oregon, tests that people used to have to drive to other locations in the state to do. And that was a significant effort on her part. And additionally, she was an active member of the National College Testing Association, and she continues to offer just tons and tons of service to our students. And the areas that she oversees, all of our testing and tutoring serve many, not only people that are students here at COCC, but community members. And so again, just a tremendous amount of effort amongst all these people. And so I am asking for your support in recommending them for emeritus status, please.
Yeah, what amazing biography.
Yeah,
Thank you for
they're
sharing with
amazing.
us. Yeah. So.
Sure.
Would anybody like to make a motion? Yes.
Be resolved that the Board of Directors of Flint Morgan Community College District approves emeritus status for retiring administrative employees Julie Downing, Tina Hovenkamp, Diana Calaquin, and Kelly Smith.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Alan. Any other questions or comments before we move on to the vote? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye and or raise your hand. Aye. Okay, and that was all of us and none opposed.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you,
so much.
Laura.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Julie. Does it feel good? Okay. So now we are moving forward in our agenda, and we were adjourned to the budget committee meeting. Like that. And I think you do a second time, because then that's the opening of the. Right.
Whatever you want.
All right, so now we're in the budget committee meeting.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the 2026 Central Oregon Community College Budget Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is the election of the committee chair and vice chair. And I've done it 2 years in a row now, so I'm hoping to pass it on to one of the other budget committees. So I open the floor to any nominations.
I'd like to nominate Jade Mayer for chair.
Thanks, Alan. Are you sure about that?
Why not?
Even second.
Well, I think we have to take that, any other nominations. Yeah, well, Dave wasn't even showing up. You'll accept, right? Do you accept this nomination, Jade?
Sure.
Okay, so, Alan, I will say that you then moved for his nomination. Is there a second? Oh, Tobias, be you, okay. This has been moved and seconded, am I doing this or are you doing it, Debbie?
Go ahead. I usually do it, but it's okay.
I would like you to finish off, sorry.
All right, so we've got a nomination for chair, so we'll vote on that. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, anybody? And now we need a nomination for the vice chair. Oh, and open for nominations.
Do you have any volunteers?
Don't be shy.
I would probably go ahead and throw my hat in.
Okay.
Jim's one's Robin. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion for Jim or vice chair?
I don't.
No.
I'm nominating Jim.
A second?
Second.
Let's vote on Jim for vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one?
I guess abstain.
All right, so we'll move on to the next item. That's our last action item for the budget committee. It'll just be the budget presentation. And that is Greg.
Sure, well, I'll kick it off and hand it off to Michael. I won't belabor the point. I include the president's budget message in here, but I do want to thank, in particular, Michael and Kathleen for outstanding work. As you all know, they do a truly a great job with this, and the entire team. The state resources have not kept up with the cost, which I don't think is a shock to anyone. We'll talk about that a little bit, but to come to a balanced budget that both increases employee pay, keep student tuition, under a 5% increase average, while breaking even is truly incredible. So a lot of really hard, good work has been put in. So Thank you all for your effort, and Michael will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Greg. And first of all, the last week has been pretty interesting. It was only last Wednesday that we came to an agreement with the classified union. And after that happened, we had to redo a bunch of them to have it in your packet by Friday. So there were a couple of errors that we found, thanks to a few of the budget committee members for pointing some things out to us. So it's going to be a little bit different than what you have in your packet. And so if you have any questions about any of this, about anything at any time, feel free to ask those questions. I do want to thank Kathleen. She does a lot of the heavy lifting. The FIAT committee helped us sort through all of the requests that we received. SLT spent a lot of time on this whole budget process this year as well. So with that, I'll jump into it. There we go. So here's the general agenda. First up, what I like to do is actually go back to 2025 because we had our audit completed in the interim, and then go into what 26 will look like. Then I'll talk about the process, some of our assumptions for the 5-year projection that we do, which was required by the board. The board, I was going to say, rules. And then I'll get into the 27 and 31 projection, and then finally completed with budget takeaways and financial ratios. There's a lot of slides about financial ratios in here. I don't plan to cover them all. I have relief from everybody. But if you have questions, we can address those questions. So the president's message has been given. One big error I made in putting all this together is that we currently have a reserve policy. The one that I sent you has not been approved by the board. Our current reserve policy is to be a minimum of 29% general fund ending balance divided by general fund operating expenses. So it's 29% with a high of 45%. So if we ever get under 29%, there was some rules in the policy that said we need to get back within the over 29% within 3 years. If we get over 45%, any excess would be transferred into a capital project fund. That is our current policy. Because of some significant expenses we've had in expanding Madras, working on the MATC building up in Redmond, and some kind of unusual expenses that we've had, we dropped below that 29%. Actually, we will by the end of 26. We haven't yet, but we will. So in order to address that, feeling fairly uncomfortable that we had a policy that was going to be basically broken, we started developing a new reserve policy. And that policy basically says that our target is to be at 60 days reserve. Okay, which is about 16.4%. In no event should it fall below 37 days, which is about 10%. If it is lower than 60 days, we have 60 days to adopt a plan to get it above that number in 3 years. If we're lower than 37 days, it's kind of like we have to work hard and immediately adjust to get it back over 37 days. And we have to do that within 60 days. I'm saying days a lot, I know that, but that is a policy.
Michael, can I just say, and I apologize if you said this, but were the board's considering these revisions today, this afternoon, or after?
First reading, yes. So this whole reserve is funded from surplus of revenues over expenditure, right? So we're not funding it through some other transfer or anything like that. It's not to be used for regular operating expenses. So if we need to use it for a capital project, deferred maintenance, the board can choose to do that. No reserve funds will be spent unless the board approves, and the VPFO will report during the budget process where we think. So that is a proposed reserve policy. I think it works really well, but you'll talk about it later on this afternoon.
Michael?
Yeah.
How does that compare to our peers? How does that policy compare to our peers?
It ranges from anywhere between 10% of general fund expenditures to 50%, which is really an outlier. Most of them are between 15 and 25. So it's generally right. And I'm talking in percentages, not days now. So you have to kind of translate that a little bit. So 10% is 37 days. So 60 days is 17%. So that's what we're shooting for, is about 17%.
Thank you.
Okay, so we finished the year. So this is actual audited. So this is actual audited financials as of 6/30/2025 compared to our budget for that year. So we actually beat our state aid number by, that's not $223, it's $223,000. Property taxes, we're a little bit under. There was a lot of litigation in the state over property taxes, and most of that has been resolved. But we didn't receive some of the payments we should have. Tuition was off a little bit, and that was basically a change from from out of district tuition to in-district tuition by a lot of our enrollment. So that had an impact on our tuition revenue and fee revenue. The other ones were interest program miscellaneous. We beat our budget number by 3.2 million. And that was the investment tax credit that we received. And then we transferred in less than we expected just because we could. So we left some money in other non-general funds. Salaries. This is what I'm talking about when I said the expenses were a little bit higher than expected. Usually we have actual salaries that are like 95% of budget. But last year, we actually used close to 99% of our budget. That came from a couple of different sources. One was we had a what we call overload payment that has never really been budgeted, and it wasn't budgeted last year. We also had some retirement that was not budgeted as well on that number. And then there was some part-time faculty that went a little bit over budget. So we did bring money to the bottom line, 1.9 million. And you can see that, the savings were quite a bit in operating expenses, over 3 million. That brought our reserve ratio to 30.2% above what we wanted it to be, which is great. Okay, it was 18.7 million. Going into 26 though, this is our budget. This is what I project right now for revenue and expenses for 26. So it looks like I'm going to be a little bit off on state aid. Actually, I think it's going to be a little bit better than that. From what I see right now, property taxes were right on. Tuition was definitely under. It could be right around that by the end of the year. The way I missed it is we projected a 2% increase in enrollment, and I added on top of it our Matters program. So that was a mistake that I made, so I over projected a little bit. And some of our campuses are down a little bit, Pineville's down a little bit, Bend's down a little bit, so that had an impact on that number. Other revenue, we did receive another employee retention tax credit for 3.6 million during the course of 26. So on our revenue, we're within 1.4% of my projection, which is pretty good. But we did get that employee retention tax credit. The salaries, payroll assessments are generally right around where they have been historically. If I was nervous about any number, it's salaries right here and payroll assessments. I've done a lot of analysis. That's my best shot at it right now. So we had a deficit of 9.8 million, which brings our reserve ratio down to 11.7. And we have about 8.9 million in general fund ending reserve projected, which is always wrong. Any questions about all that? I can move through. When I first came to the college, we basically budget more expenses than revenue. But because of our savings that we see every year, we have a little room so we can budget a little bit more. So that happened, in 25. In 26, we knew we were going to spend more than revenue because of huge capital expenditure.
Yeah, Michael, how much of that transfer out was actually dedicated to capital projects? Right, a chunk of that.
15 million, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So, in the new reserve policy, we have to have a plan to get our number of days in reserve over 60. So we put together a little plan. We need to have enrollment greater than 2%. We need tuition increases greater than 4.42 for 2027. And then we put 3.5% thereafter. Expenses for community colleges have been rising faster than general inflation. So they've been, 3.6%, 3.7%. Tax fees have been even higher. So we're recommending a tuition increase of 4.42% to get to the number we need. Yes.
Okay, I'm asking a question now.
Yeah.
Why are they raising higher than inflation? What are the contributing factors?
Because historically we have been less than 3, so it's just starting to catch up to us. Inflation compounds every year, and we kind of need to make up for some of the low tuition increases we've had. I looked at some of the other community colleges, and they are anywhere between 3 and 7%. So most of them are raising tuition more than they typically do. And I would think inflation might be even worse than 2% because of the awards.
Is that is it just everything that's going on? I guess what's the contributing factor? Like the factors? Is it salaries? Is it?
It's definitely
cost
salary.
of energy? Is it supply?
Insurance,
Insurance.
Okay. Technology has been significant.
PERS, technology, that's
The
true.
first
Yeah,
phase,
okay.
yeah.
Good, thank you.
I mean, just our IT, like to buy a new computer is like twice as much.
It went up 45%
Yeah.
last 6 weeks.
Ooh,
And that's why we have a tech fee increase of 5.4%.
Yeah.
So we could sell Outprop phase 2 lots. We have 2 developers that are very interested in taking out all those lots. That hasn't happened yet, but we were very encouraged by that, so that can happen faster. We have some excess property that I did not include in the projection that we could sell. So that's up to the board. Optimized center of business would add hundreds of thousands of dollars to our budget.
How do we optimize it?
That's
kind of a little bit of a
kind of reorganizing it so it's more efficient and more effective.
So that's something we've identified how we can do it?
Yeah, we know.
So we're already undertaking that?
We are. Cindy is leading the charge.
Can we get like an update on that at some point?
Okay, implement new program for course fees. In 2017, we had a pretty good program to analyze all course and program fees at the college. And the program was supposed to be kicked off by me, which I didn't know. And we haven't been doing it since 2017. So, as you know. And so what we're supposed to do is look at all of our program and course fees and determine how much of the course and program costs it comes. So we look at the total cost of the program and the courses, and then we compare it to the fee we charge. And then we make a decision, how close can we get it to our actual cost? Some program, we're not gonna get as close to the cost. Some programs we look at and we say, what is the competitive rate that other community colleges are paying? So it'll be somewhere between what the current fee is now, what the competitive market is, and then what it actually costs us. So that's going to be the overall program. Just this year, we're recommending at least 90,000 in increases, and that's for 5 programs. We have 232 different program course fee and course fee. $7.5 million in total. So we just need to get a handle on that, and as we address it and we're competitive with our other community colleges, we think we can increase revenue quite a bit there. Harvest some non-general fund balances. So we have enterprise funds, they make money. Usually we keep some of that money within the enterprise fund, just so that they can have money for if they need to buy something at student housing, say HVAC, or something happens in our cafeteria, we want to replace those items fairly quickly. So we keep a balance. Sometimes it can get a little bit high, so we will transfer some of those funds into the general fund. And then overall, we need to manage payroll, materials, and supplies budgets and really watch all of those kids. So that's the overall plan. Any questions there?
Michael, who worked on this?
SLT.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, this is our overall timeline, but to make it really simple, what we do is we don't have a zero-based budget. So we roll over the previous year's budget to the new year, and then we take out any one-time items. Okay, and then we look at all the positions we have as a college, and we make sure they're correct. We apply any payroll increases that are in contracts. And then we basically have the start of our budget. Then we ask everybody at the college, if you would like additional funding in your budget, you need to request it. And a group called Fiat reviews all of them. And they review personnel, supplies, capital projects, all of that stuff goes in front of Fiat. And Fiat ranks them based on whether we have to do it, or it would be nice to have, or whether it was a commitment we already made, and they present that to the senior leadership. At the same time, I am looking at all of our revenue numbers, doing all kinds of projections. People ask me why my projections change all the time. It's because the world is changing all the time. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had HEC ask us to explain what a 10% decrease in state funding would mean to us. So it happens all the time, so we have to adjust and answer those types of questions. So Kathleen does a great job in putting deadlines on all these things, and we did how many this year?
Maybe.
Maybe that. You're a little bit.
There were other things going on.
Yes.
What does FIAT stand for and who's on that committee?
So Financial Internal Advisory Team, which is a group of people from all different departments throughout the school, different, classified, faculty, a lot of different people.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna say that. So our main topic today is the one primary operating fund, which is the general fund. We will cover all the non-general funds in our next meeting. We do have designated activity funds, and those are in the next meeting. We try to do a conservative forecast, but there's a lot of moving parts, and sometimes we're over, sometimes we're under. We're trying to be as accurate as possible. And then again, budget oversight, we'll have that review in May. So financial projections are required by board policy. So I go out 5 years, sometimes 6 years, because I try to cover a biennium entirely. So it changes a little bit. And really the reason for it is to identify trends, understand the long-term effects of our current budget decisions in the future, required by board policy I mentioned, And then it's recommended by accreditation standards and bond rating companies. And they always ask about it, about what we're doing. And they love the way we project at S&P, and they gave us a AA rating, which they confirmed a little bit in 2025. They'll do another review in 26. AA rating's good. Okay, the assumptions I use in projecting in the future are based on looking back to see what we've done in the past. So our 5-year average is 5.3% on property taxes. So that's what I use for projecting the future. Enrollment, in the past 5 years, the average is down 0.85, but there's been a trend of increasing enrollment for a number of years now. I think since 23, I have a graph in here for you to look at. So we put it at 2%, which is pretty conservative. Tuition, I already mentioned what we're proposing as an increase. It's not 5%, it's 4.6, I think. And 3.5% thereafter. Fees are generally 20% of tuition. So I basically take total tuition revenue, multiply by 20% to get our fee numbers. It's been between 19 to 21% for years. Because we're implementing the new programs and course fee analysis, this will change a little bit in the future based on what is approved by academic affairs and increasing fees. Does that make sense? So we go to a group called academic affairs. We present all the changes to program and course fees, and they can approve it, modify it, and then it goes to the president for approval. Got it? Benefits. Payroll assessments are roughly 40.9%. This worries me. I think PERS outperformed their discount rate of 6.9% last year. Hopefully that will continue. The stock market has been doing great this year, but I'm using 40.9% in the future. Medical per FTE inflation, we have at 3%.
Is that realistic?
We've historically been about 3.
It's contracted by OM. The 3.4 is the.
The revised statute today says 3.4%, although it has come up in the not short legislation session, but the prior one, possibly increasing it to 5 or 6% in future. So it will likely go up at some point.
So we do have, now I'll talk about utilization rates. If you could imagine, if you take how much we actually spent divided by budget, that is a utilization rate. So the utilization rate for payroll has historically been 94%. Last year, we used 99%. I'm projecting we'll be about 97% in 27, and then bring it back to 95.2% in the future. That is because we have learned the hard way that we have to budget for things like overload payments. If we decide to do a retirement plan in the future, all that stuff we'll put in the budget that'll change the dynamics a little bit. Benefits have been around 87%. I'm moving it up to 90. Materials and supplies have been at 79%. I'm moving it up to 85% to try to be conservative.
Michael, given what Laura said, should we increase the medical from in future years? Just because we are always projecting out for a few more years from that 3% to 5 or
3.4.
3.4 or definitely this coming fiscal year. Beyond that, it's all dependent on when the legislature meets it. So it's possible, I think, follow 2 years.
I can do that.
Yeah. If it's me, I'd put it at least at 5 or 5.5. I know, sorry.
That's all right.
I mean, we've always tried to be, reasonable, but conservative.
Yeah, it's probably not gonna go up, for example, like 3.4 to 3.8 before. It's gonna go up probably by
5.
Yeah. Sorry, I know you don't like that, but.
Michael, gut feel, is that $100,000 or is it $1 million?
The increase?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean, I'm sorry to ask the question.
We can
I was just trying to get a relevant.
can I just kind of explain what it means? It just the impact, what it actually looks like. So what it looks like in the way it translates. So if it goes from 3.4, let's just say to 5. What that means is OEB is our broker and they're finding the best rates for different things. And then they put together plans. We have 6 plans today. And so in those plans, what you see as your co-pays and what, you know, and things like that, and then what you actually then pay in the total insurance premium, right? So let's just say an insurance premium, pardon me, right now, roughly the most expensive plan we have is about $2,200 per month. That 2,200 is the number we're talking about. So let's say right now, you know, they're negotiating right now, roughly May, every year they come out with the new rate plans. The new rate plans would be the 2,200 we have today for the most expensive plan times no more than 3.4%. Okay. If it goes up to 5, same principle applies. It's times 5%, right? So the plans, the entire cost of the plan goes up. And the way the college covers for employees, then it translates into what the college pays. Today for our employee groups, it's 90% and 10% is changing. We'll talk about it later for the classified. But the point being that it will go up because the 90% we're paying on that 2,200 today could be whatever, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to do the math for 5% more than that, but whatever that 2,200 turned into, you would be paying 90% of that number. And the employee cost plus, so what the portion they pay goes up too. Does that help maybe understand where it kind of, how it kind of rolls out? It's not in the individual costs of those services that ORS applies. It's the cost that we then have to pay as an employer and the employees.
So do you know off the top of your head what 1.5% increase would mean?
No, I
If we went to
Oh,
5?
okay. Oh, I like it. You're not looking at me.
I think, you know, another kind of variable in it is, you know, the employees have to determine what plan works best for them.
Right.
Budget, you know, I know that the percentage there is the actual cost that we're looking at for medical correctly, but, yeah, so we take the highest plan and assume that everybody's gonna accept the highest plan. And then there's typically some savings, so like the benefits utilization may change. So there are a few kind of variables that we could play with to kind of get to that number, but you know, perhaps increasing what our appropriation. I don't know if we need to increase our appropriation, but increasing the forecast numbers for future years.
I did put 90% utilization for benefits. That helped a little bit with that. I was gonna say it's 450,000, but it's not that.
Yeah, I agree with quick math on it, but yeah, I mean, also, you know, if an employee is looking at the plans and now all of a sudden it's more expensive, they might opt for this. Which is perhaps maybe not the best decision for them or their family, but it is less expensive. Hard to say.
So this is our historical revenue by type since 2014. So at one point, our tuition and fees were actually more than any other funding source. But when we had the downturn in enrollment, it actually is less than property taxes are now. You'll see the red line starts to grow a little bit faster than the blue line. That's because of the course and program fee revenue that we think will be generated by the college in the future. So that'll start growing a little bit faster. As far as the state green line, who knows? I don't know. Gotta love them though. So our 2025 to 26 imposed property taxes. This is the latest information we have about the property taxes that we receive from the different counties. I project that it'll grow at 5.3% for 2027, but this is who pays what now. And it's pretty amazing, 21.4 million from Deschutes County, almost 2.2 million from Crook. And they've been contributing since 1965, I think we looked at, so a long time. So our expansion really makes a difference from, you know, from Crook, what we do there, as well as Jefferson, who's a big contributor. Okay, this is historic enrollment, and when I said that we're on a downturn from 2012, really 2011, all the way to 2023. But the last few years have been positive in terms of historical head count. And we've had some improvement in FTE as well the last few years. So that's a good trend. Alicia shared with me that they track in her department tuition increases every year back to 1980. And if you average all the increases since 1980, the average is 5%. In some years, I don't know what happened this year in 2003, but there were significant increases to out of district and in district tuition.
Michael, that was the year we adopted a new residency policy
Okay,
that charged much higher rates for out of district, non-resident and out of state.
2007, 2008, there was no increase. 2022, there was no increase. That's why there's no bar graph. So we think the recommendation for the tuition increase is reasonable considering the history of what the college has done when they need to, as well as what other community colleges are doing now. So this is a recommendation by each residency category. So moving in district up $5.50, non-resident veterans up 6.75%. And out of district border states to 8, out of state international 17.50, which we don't have any. And then the technology of $1 increase, which would be 5.4% to be at $19.50. Total fees would be $21.25 per credit. And then on the bottom of this sheet is actually how much it would cost a student per year to study for 36 credits at COCC. So it would be for somebody in district, it would be a 4.49% increase of $234.
Michael, can you remind us, just for those who are new to the budget committee, we have certain categories that the state requires us to take without charging tuition, right?
Alicia.
Did you say without tuition, Laura?
Yeah.
Yes, like foster youth, there would be a senior tuition waiver process, but you have to meet certain criteria for that. It's a pretty small population, but there still are definitely happen.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure we don't forget that piece.
In 2024, we were the 4th lowest expensive college of 17. In 25, we went up to the 5th. And based on this recommendation, we would be the 8th lowest. Having said that, 6 colleges have not reported at all. And only 6 of the colleges have been approved by the board of directors on their increase. So what I'm saying is that this is not complete yet, but it shows where we would be if everybody were to keep their rates like last year, or go with what their approved rates.
What do we say in our strategic plan or goal is to be within where?
I think it's the lowest in one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
I think what's important to note here is this is a combination of current year rates, 25, 26, and those that are over 26, 27. So when Michael says this isn't really
Right.
accurate, it's hard to tell.
Right. Yeah.
Where we'll land in that regard.
I'm curious why you would set that as a goal. I mean, I understand that you don't want students to pay, I mean, we don't have to pay anything, but when you consider the opportunity cost of providing a tremendous product on the table for students, I'm just curious in the grand thinking, why would you want to be in the lowest quartile for tuition rates if potentially what that means is you're sealing your fate about the value of the product you're putting out to the community. You
And
understand
I
what I'm
ran
saying?
similarly with that goal when we talked about it last year, is like a lot of, it's largely out of our control what the other colleges are doing.
Sure.
And that impacts it
I think
as
part of-
well.
Yeah, I think part of what motivated us when we adopted that.
Yeah.
Was a realization that we have a very large percentage of poverty in Central Oregon. If you look at the percentage of our residents who are in poverty compared to a lot of other portions of the state, particularly in Kirk and Jefferson and in South County, we've got a much larger group of people in poverty.
I appreciate that, because I was curious about that, yeah. I mean, that
Which
makes
it's kind of, it's kind of pernicious for us in this region because we're also one of the most expensive places to live. Right, which is a challenge that we've got on the other side, so it's a constant balancing thing.
I think the question is, the students that come here, what is their demographic? So are they coming from, I realize the population might slice that
Sure,
way,
but-
but what about?
Sure, but one of the things you gotta recognize is as the tuition goes up, our population is gonna become more affluent because people who can't make it are gonna be priced out. Right? I mean, so you could look at the demographic of who comes here and say, okay, they're not quite as, they're better off than the people who aren't there. But maybe that you just explain why that is.
Okay.
I think it's a fair question. We may be pushed out of that. With if the state reduces funding, with our contract negotiations, we may be pushed out of that position where we have to pay more because we are one of the most expensive places to live. But it's a good question. I think we're in a good spot to start from as these unknowns unravel with us.
Well, I appreciate your property tax base, that the community is supportive of this college, and to me, that gives you the opportunity to be in the lower quartile,
Of
so.
course, the problem is when our property taxes go up, our state funding goes down.
But I'd rather be reliant on your.
That's what we've always said.
constituents
That's
than
what
the
we've always
state.
said.
Yeah,
I think the other piece is part of our mission is accessibility.
right.
So even if we talk about it as a product, we want the product to be accessible to the people who live in our district.
Good points.
And then there's other ways to kind of try to figure some of that out, scholarships. So, we might end up having to do more and then we need to be more robust in our scholarship. Good point.
So a number of years ago, the state decided that every college basically needs to get about the same amount of funding. So they combined state funding with the property taxes collected for each community college. And they said those two combined divided by FTE should be about the same. Okay, we actually fought that. And lost the court case. Alicia knows the details, or maybe Laura. But we lost that case. So now that's how they do it. They want to promote equity of funding for students. And some of the little notes, the last 3 bullet points I put from last year are total public resources, which are property taxes as well as state funding combined, are down 0.25% from prior year. So our state funding is going down in total with property taxes. And then our CCSF, and I forgot what that stands for, but it's basically our state funding. Is down.
Support fund.
Or
Community college
Support fund.
thank you. Appreciate
You
that.
guys are better than Google.
No. Aaron GPT.
But that's down 6.8% because our property taxes continue to go up, therefore we get less state funding on time. There is a thing in the formula called quality growth factor. And every year, if we grow more than that percentage, what is called the quality growth factor, then those students don't count. And we don't get funded from it. So currently we have 318 FTE that are not funded because of the cap, FTE cap. All the other community colleges, except the smallest, have FTE not funded. And all the smaller community colleges want to keep the growth factor low enough so that we don't get funding for these excess FTE that we have. Does that make sense? Should I try again? So the smaller community colleges don't grow a whole lot. So if we increase the quality growth factor to say 20%, then all the other colleges would be fully funded for the FT that they have. And so money would be taken away from the other smaller communities. So they don't like that. Greg, you guys talk about it in the project.
It comes up all the time. It's a real challenge, especially for colleges on the coast that are much smaller and have more stagnant populations than growing areas. Central Oregon in particular, this is the highest growth area in the state. So it really impacts us and road communities, both pretty significantly.
So about 4 or 5 times a year, we get this spreadsheet from Higher Education Coordinating Commission, which basically shows how they calculate how much we get. And at the very bottom, I put the calculations in here. I don't talk about the base payment, but basically the base payment is where smaller community colleges get more money based on the number of students they have than bigger. So you can see Blue Mountain Small, they get more than us in the basement. Okay. Other examples are Columbia Gorge, they're a smaller college, their ratio is different. So that's how it works. So funded FTE, if you take 3,620, which is our FTE, with that cap on it, so it's restricted, divided by total FTE times the 626 right here. Then you get how much our funding, which is total TPR. Okay, you subtract property taxes to get what our CCSF is without base, and then you add base to get 11.2 is what we get in that funding source. There are 2 other funding sources coming from HEC. One is based on student success, which is how many students are advancing towards their degree. Alicia was part of the work group that formulated this. And then another one called student support, which is based on how much we help struggling populations.
We kind of call it an input-output model. So what are the priority populations for the state of Oregon? And it's adult learners, CTE, students of color. I just prepped for 4 years ago we did this. And then there's their success, completion of a certain number of credits, completion of entry-level English and math, or writing and math, completions of any kind, credit or non-credit. So it's a minimal portion of the funding formula, though, at least for now, but we can envision in the future it would grow.
So we get 11.3 in the CCSF. Student success is 457, and student support is like 700,000, something like that. So it's enough less in the funding.
Alan has a question.
So back to that other sheet. Now, HEC came to us before this legislative session, and they said, think about a 5% decrease in state funding. And then you told us that that really means a 14% decrease for COCC. Where on this chart is that 5 to 14?
Because it has to flow through that funding model that I just described.
So it's like the base payment or something is?
No, it's actually the percentage of property taxes compared to what we get from the state. So that kind of remains the same. So if they have less state funding, so less is distributed to colleges that have higher real estate tax. So it just exaggerates.
That doesn't seem fair.
That's why we sued and we lost. It is really vexing. I mean, we tax at a higher rate. Our taxes here, our property taxes are at a higher rate than they are in much of the state. And so as a result, we collect more in taxes. In essence, our population here pays more for COCC than they do in much of the rest of the state.
But they take the general fund money from the state and add it with the property tax, and that's the number.
Right. And you can understand logically why, students shouldn't be, it shouldn't be unfair to students because it's not the student's fault that, place has got really low taxes and doesn't collect a lot of money. That was the state's logic in saying, let's equalize. But it ends up really being bad for taxpayers in our area.
I mean, you can even see on this column, TPR per FTE, they want everybody to be the same, right? But when it comes to actual state funding, it varies quite a bit. Because we receive less state funding per FTE than of our high tech.
The last two columns are the interesting ones to look at. So you have the tax percentage versus the CCSF, which is just state aid. And so you can just see the tremendous difference between colleges. Some are getting almost 3/4 from tax, and others are getting 3/4 from the state, and they're all trying to exist in the same formula, which is just incredibly difficult. And the tax revenue is pretty consistent, which is good for us, but the cuts keep coming at the state level, and then we can't make it up on the tax side because it still factors in. So that's a challenge.
Okay, that's revenue. Are you timing me still? 5 minutes?
You've gone over your 5 minutes.
Okay. So, as I said, we ask everybody in the college to submit fiat requests, and fiat ranks them, and then they go to SLT. Some of them are mandatory, like software cost escalation every year, 100 grand for us. Overload pay. We've been paying overload pay for a long time. We just never budgeted, so we're budgeted. Insurance increases. Just our boiler went up 17%. That's what they're telling us about. So it's increasing quickly. We had commitments like mattress and dental assistance that we had to agree to fund. And then we have custodial, scheduling support, and financial aid that we were approved. The custodial will in some ways help us cancel some of the contracts we have for cleaning Wikia, for example. So
Michael,
those were needed.
while you're talking about those things, it kind of gets into the next page, and I wanted to ask you, because you just mentioned something about the boiler, and I noticed that our fire and boiler insurance went up dramatically. And what I'm wondering is if I know we've got some of that in our replacement, in our capital repairs sort of dreams down the year.
That was a data input error that we had. One of the budget committee members asked me about it. So when we looked into it, where is it right here? It's actually 397. It's not 1
Oh, okay.
The slide was incorrect, the information.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if that was gonna get better when we eventually replace our boilers, but I'm not so panicked anymore.
So, some of the big changes are, plan additions, obviously mattress is complete, so that went down quite a bit. We had reduced interfund transfers to technology. We're just going to reduce it for a year because we have a ending fund balance in those accounts. That's enough to fund that. A couple of the other ones, like first year experience, we're basically doing a reorganization in student affairs. So some of this money is being switched around. Not to cover everything. Budget correction from prior year. You want to talk about that a little bit, Kathleen?
Do we need to?
Does anybody have a question about any of this?
Yeah, I actually want to know both of those, what those were, under nursing and health.
For prior years, I think we had a benefited position for both nursing and for health and human performance that was not captured in last year's budget. But we did have an employee there. So this year's budget captures that.
And what is the increased increased insurance expense and interfund transfer for expected unemployment?
So, because we are negotiating with our unions, is there a risk that we might have to pay unemployment?
Oh, okay, thank you.
So here are all the transfers, and on the top part, basically, we have additional funds available in the non-general fund, which we're transferring to the general fund to make a balance budget. The bottom portion, you know, we have a good description right here, but a budget committee member asked me the details of it. So here is the exact details of where the money go. So to fund the SBA match, classified development, there's some money, but the big ones are Redmond, MATC construction, we're transferring $1.7 million. Foundation, we cover half of their employees, so that's what that number is. Faculty sabbatical, that's something that's contractual that we have to fund every year. And those are really the big ones. Merit scholarships transfer, we want to fund that. New construction and campus renovation, those are some of the capital projects that we approve. Specifically, that one is to basically kind of reconstruct veterinary to vet tech to meet accreditation standards. Any other questions about that long list?
Going back on the transfers in, when you look forward in your forward projections, are you projecting that you'll continue to need somewhere around 4.5 million of transfers into the general fund to kind of keep it healthy? Or are some of these one time? So this real estate development capital 3.7, is that a one time?
That's a one time to drop to about $1.1 million per year forecast.
And so when you look forward and you say, okay, this transfers in are gonna drop.
Yes.
You're not projecting that that's a problem, or are you projecting that that will be a problem for the general?
No, I look at the general fund, I look at the ending fund balance of all of these funds, how much they're generating in revenue, and then what we can tolerate to take out of those funds so that those things.
Okay.
Okay. So that is part of the analysis. But yeah, this is definitely a one-time thing. We invested some money in infrastructure down at Outcrop. And we did that because the return is about 17%. So when we get that back, it's a good return on our investment. I went through that. So here's the capital projects. I said vet tech remodel, that's the 255,000 from the previous slide. Redmond MATC, we have to buy a cinder spreader so people don't slide and crash their car on campus. And these are some of the other items that we had to invest in. Culinary water heater. This is really good news. Josh figured out how to take this project cost from, was it 325,000?
340.
Down to 46,000 bucks by reading. He did some good work there. Hey, this is a comparison of our budget from year to year. Basically, a lot of salary increases, payroll assessment. That's where it's really going. The transfer out dropped quite a bit right here because we don't have matters going on. Campus services. When we do a transfer out, we usually categorize it from the department that's responsible for. So when we transfer something out, we classify it as a campus service when we're doing a construction process. So that's why that's it. Just a slide on percentage of general funding expenditure. Obviously, our largest expenditure is salaries, payroll assessments, and that totals 79% of our total spending. 42% of our spending is instruction, and then you can see the other breakdowns. Okay, so you've seen 25 and 26. This is the same information as that previous slide. So again, we had 11.7 projected 11.7%. Reserve at the end of 26 projecting and $8.8 million. Our budget that we're proposing is $67 million in revenue, $72 million in expenses. If we spent all that, it would be bad news. And we would be at $3.7 million in cash at the end of next year. However, we usually don't. And then we are projected to actually have a surplus of $12,000, which is much better than last year, bringing our reserve percentage of 13.1. The reason it jumped so much is the calculation is general fund ending balance divided by operating expenses. So if you compare our operating expenses in 27, they're a lot lower than 26. And that's why the percentage increases so much. Got it? On the very bottom, again, I put the number of days in reserve because that's what our new policy will have. So at the end of this year, it'll be 43 days. At the end of next year, it should be 40. So this is a long-term projection of our financials. And with the assumption by you, to answer your question, Jim, there's a big dip in transfers going forward now. Okay. There is an increase in transfers out going forward. The reason for that is we have the opportunity to go and ask HEC to match our funding for deferred maintenance projects, specifically for BTE Light program. So we can ask for $8 million up to $12 million from them. We decided that we're going to ask for 8 because we think we can have 8 by the fall of 2028. And then they will basically fund half of our $16 million in deferred maintenance. So we didn't want to, mess that up. It's a great opportunity for the college. So that's why some of the transfers out are getting a little bit bigger. So we make sure we have the money to do it. We continually grow the general fund surplus going out. So for 30 and 31, the reason it drops a little bit is because of these transfers to do the HEC match. And then we get to, we'll be at 48 days at the end of 27, get to 54 and 28, and then we'll be at 60 thereon after. So we hit the plan of being at 60 within 3 years. Do you not like this one?
Got some nice colors on it.
It's colors, there's a bunch of numbers, there's words.
I guess one thing that hits me is that, we've talked about the college falling behind on the deferred maintenance. It's not the best start, but you have a depreciation expense in your financial statements. I think it was 3.7 million last year. And so one way of looking at it is if we aren't spending, if the combination of spending on replacements and transfers into a reserve for capital doesn't match that, and we know the actual number's greater because of inflationary, you're going backwards. And this actually has you transferring money for capital projects, and it'll be matched if you're successful with HEC. And if you can get in the habit and can allow it in your budget and not jeopardize your operations and get in the habit of doing it, continue it. And then you'll be much closer to a program that will provide the resources, and you won't be in this continual cycle of falling behind on your capital maintenance projects, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely.
And so there's a lot of good in what is there and whatever you gotta do to keep heck on your side.
So we had to submit it on April 6th.
Monday.
So on Monday, so we submitted this proposal to them. We can modify the request along the way because we don't actually. I guess in 2028, if we wanted to modify it in front of the legislature, Greg would have to go in front of them and ask for it to be modified. But they're very flexible about it. Other than the amount, I think if we wanted 12, we should ask for 12 now, but we didn't. So we actually have to have the money in a bank account of $8 million by the fall of 2028, and then we get funded in the spring of 2020.
I was just gonna say, as long as I've been here, because I've been on the board now since 2012, and I was on the budget committee for like 3 years before that. And the way that the state funds changes all the time, right? But the one thing that has not changed, well, I mean, I guess this process is a little bit different, but there's actually a disincentive to put a bunch of money aside for your future maintenance, because the state periodically prioritizes colleges that don't have money for maintenance. And so if you've been siphoning money off, which is, I'm a real estate lawyer, I know this. I mean, capital reserve is just critical. It's a part of your operating expense you set aside every month. But if you do that pretty regularly, you're taking that money from your operations, from your student services and your delivery of education. And then you get to the point where you need to, you look around and you're like, oh, well, the state's giving the money to all the people let their buildings fall apart. Right. So it's a careful balancing.
That's sad because it would makes more sense to me for the state to reward institutions that are doing a good job. Obviously, you're not covering all of your deferred maintenance. So they're helping, but you're doing a good job by making a stab at it. And
which is why we keep updating facilities plans, and we're regularly updating what our deferred maintenance is and re-inspecting. Josh and Michael have done a really good job over the last couple of years of talking with our real estate committee about, keeping track of where our priorities are, because we want to be mindful of the fact that you could do a little bit of maintenance now and save a whole lot of costs later, right? And so.
Good points.
I should mention at the very bottom of this slide, it says funding needed to be at 60 days. So each year it tells you how much additional funding you need to get to the 60 days. And if you're over, it's negative. So what we did is we went, and when I say we, SLP, we have this facilities and space planning committee, review all of our outstanding deferred maintenance, which now totals 32 million bucks. And we went through every item in each, and we thought which ones fit within the HEC request perfectly. And then there are others that don't, that we think we can get funding from a GO bond in 2030 to fund. And then there's other items that we think can get funding from grants that are available to us. So we segregated all these out between HEC, GO funding, grants. And in this slide, we basically have, these are the HEC submission. And then this is the year we would actually start spending the money.
It's all in today's dollars, Michael.
No, it's not. It's in tomorrow's dollar. We increased for inflation.
It's a question I don't know if to direct it to. Is it correct that there's some level of collaboration among colleges when applying for HEC funding, but that's typically, is that for like new capital projects, not this type of request? Or does this type of request like going through that process of like kind of rotating or need-based or whatever?
How it works is we submit it to HEC, they review it, they ask a bunch of questions, and their staff reviews it, and then they will call all of the schools that don't have a submission together with HEC staff, and then they vote on And they basically decide in what order they recommend it to the legislature. And then if the legislature agrees to all of them, which they have.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that. They have lately approved all of them. If some don't get approved, they are pushed to the top of the list on the next one.
Okay.
And I think what you're saying is that they go to capital construction committee, just like the other projects, like the building project.
Yeah.
They sell bonds for a certain amount to take care of this program.
I think the central point is we're really trying to figure out deferred maintenance because it's gone on for years. And so the only way to do that is to disaggregate some of it. So HEC is one source, it's a great source, it's a match. The other entity that Michael didn't mention is federal appropriations. So we're also seeking those out this year as well. We made a request to our federal delegation to see if we can get some funds that way. So between HEC, that grants, we're just going to try and start taking a big bite out of some of these deferred maintenance projects that we need to address.
This would cut it basically in half. Oh, I just remembered something on the projections, by the way. We always have $1 million contingency in our expenses, just in case something bad happens. If we don't use it, we transfer it to the capital projects fund to have money available for whatever happens. So budget takeaway, we try to be conservative. It sounds like you want me to be even more conservative, so I'll work on some of those numbers. We want accessibility and affordability. You try to use grant funds strategically, and we're investing in police facilities and technology in this budget.
Michael, do you think that deferred maintenance number is conservative as well when you build that up?
32 million. Right now, I think 32 million is about right, but every day something happens. Okay. So most recently, we had our insurance company PACE notify us that any trusses that are 50 years old or older, we have to inspect to make sure they're okay, or they will not insure us. So Mazama has an issue, and we're going to have to fix that. That is not in here. It could be reinforced beams, stuff like that. I don't know how much it will cost. Josh is thinking, 600, 800,000 just to do that. We have also staircase over at MoDOT that needs to be repaired. And that's where the cost of it is. So.
Is there a methodology behind how the 32 million is calculated? I mean, obviously, you don't have $32 million of buildings that are about to collapse. So there has to be some kind of concept and process to get that number. I'm just curious if you could tell us what that is without getting too complicated.
We had a third party firm come and inspect every one of our buildings on campus. And they had identified all the weaknesses on every building and said, in what time frame do we need to actually fix this stuff? Okay. So they have now 1 to 3 years, 5 to 10, and they did that whole analysis. Since that time, Josh has taken that information. When we complete a project, he crosses it off the list, and then he adds to it as new things come up. So that's how we track that whole process. So this is the whole ratio analysis, and I don't need to go through all of these slides other than to note that it's a great way to compare ourselves to other colleges. They're having not only community colleges do this, but they're having all the universities do the same thing. They actually issue a report every year on universities, a separate report on all the colleges. It's based on basically 4 ratios that are boiled down to one ratio, which is called the CFI. One of the slides that I've noticed in their presentation is they say, all these ratios are important. Liquidity is the most important.
I feel like an Animal Farm thing here.
So the ratios are weighted at 35% each for primary reserve and viability ratio and 20% for return on net position and net operating revenue. All the calculations are here at the bottom. So Angie actually went out and read a book about how these things were created, and she found this CFI range of what it actually means. Heck instead uses stuff like struggling to describe how people are doing. I think this is a little bit better. COC ratio result for 2020 to 2025. We came down on reserve ratio, up a little bit on viability ratio, down on operating margin because our actually surplus was less than the previous year. Remember, this is only through 25, and this was just published. So we won't get around to 26 for a year. And then return on net position also declined. So this is how we look. If you put it in that filter that Angie discovered, we're in a situation where we need the direct resources to allow for transformation, whatever that might mean to you. This is all the community colleges together. And you know, every time I see something like this, I'm like, well, who's the top of and I think I have that on that.
CVCC.
Okay, top performer is Treasure Valley. Number 2 is Chemeketa, then Klamath, and then UCC. The bottom 3 are LBCC at the bottom, Clackamas, and Southwest Oregon Community College. We are in the middle. I try to make it as bright as possible so you can see it. Just in the middle. That's all. Any questions?
It's a great presentation.
Thank you. There's challenge me to do it in 5 minutes.
It was close, real close.
An hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions after the meeting, before our next meeting, don't hesitate to reach out. A lot of the questions I've had already have been excellent. I really appreciate it. It helps us get better at doing this.
There are no more questions, then the budget committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you for your service to chair for the last couple of years and for your patience with me jumping in. Give a lot of grace. Okay, I'm gonna hit this. I'm sorry you don't get to do this all the time. And then opening session. I think we are 2 hours into this board meeting. Would you all like a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and we will come back together at 7:50. Okay, so we're back from the break. We waited for a natural lull, which took an extra few minutes. Okay, so now we are at public comment, and I believe Sarah Hinson is joining us to speak with us.
Thank you. I'll make this short and hopefully sweet. I just want to say congratulations on reaching an agreement with the classified staff on their contract. And I want to extend my thanks to everyone who worked so hard to secure a contract that is fair and sustainable for that. And then I also just want to comment on the amazing faculty that you all got to hear about today and hear from our students. And I just really want to highlight faculty excellence. And lest you think that the 35 faculty that you heard about today are the only ones who are doing incredibly innovative, creative, excellent work. I want to assure you that within every single department, we have people who really are dedicating their careers in service of our students and our community and our college, and who bring amazing passion and creativity and innovation and incredible depth of knowledge and experience to our students. You know, we have a part of our mission that says we want to cultivate a culture of excellence, and our faculty are doing that. And I just want to tell you too that our faculty, the amazing people that we have here, is why we fight so hard to really secure a contract that pays them what they're worth and pays them commensurate with the other faculty at other community colleges in Oregon, right? We saw a lot of numbers comparing ourselves to other colleges. They're figuring it out, some way to pay other faculty better than we are. And we just really want to encourage us to be creative and be innovative in how we look at that in our budgets and figure out a way to do that. You know, you heard from a student who was talking about the amazing nursing faculty. And our nursing faculty have come and talked to me many times about how their students are making more in their first jobs after graduating from their program than our faculty are making. We just lost another full-time nursing faculty to a higher paying private sector job just a few weeks ago. So it is really important for our long-term sustainability, right, for the quality that we're doing, to be able to be a first choice for students and for our community, that we invest in retaining the amazing faculty that we have and being able to recruit new faculty to come to us and have that be their first choice as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, is there any other public comment?
Nope, that's it.
All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have our regular meeting minutes in there.
Move approval.
Thank you, Alex.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments before we go to a vote? Okay, all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, Joe. So none opposed. Next up, we're at information items. So we have anything else to add? Monthly budget status.
Just to note that the cash balance of all funds within the LGIP is down 7.5 million from last year, totaling right now $40 million. Which I think it will continue to drop as we continue with construction project. Nothing else really came to the forefront on the report.
Any questions for Michael? All right. Next up, we have the new hire reports. Anything, Laura, that you'd like to share? Just, okay.
It's just here. If you have questions, thank you.
Any questions or comments for Laura?
I just have one quick one. The manufacturing workforce development coordinator, is that a new position or is that a film and?
I will let Anne Marie, that's comes in her area.
The new position funded by the COCC grants.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. So we're moving on to new business. We have Prineville Campus AV system upgrade.
Oh, go ahead. Do you want me to read it or do you want me to just kind of give you the highlights, what works for you?
Highlights are good.
Okay, great. Let me just get to it. Packet. Okay, so I'll just stand up since I'm over here. All right, so Prineville is, in a nutshell, Prineville has been having a number of technology issues in their classrooms related to like the projection, what we call the room control Crestron systems. And so we met with Susie Christensen and talked to her about the various issues. These have been there since we took over the building a number of years ago and like put it on our network and so on. And so some of the gear is from that time or prior to that time. And so it needs just an update and a refresh. And some of the technology is just old. So they've had a number of issues that are actually impacting their ability to carry out instruction. So, and Michael can chime in if he wants to, but my understanding of the way this works is there is a review meeting for budgetary items with Crook County and us. And that took place, I want to say in March. And then I presented this information to that group in order to say, if you're looking, towards making updates to these classrooms, this is the cost, and that was approved. And so this is a result of a variety of folks, both Crook County and COCC, doing a review of the proposal The company that we would like to work with is called CTI, and they are the most local. They're out of Redmond, rather than someone in Portland. They're the AV technology company, and so this is to update all of the classrooms and there's a total of 7 classrooms, 2 streaming classrooms. And then 5 additional rooms that are much like this, but the streaming classrooms have more technology required in it. So I'm asking for the 190,000, which is to be used for these upgrades for that space, for that building. Any other information people need?
And then are we getting reimbursed? We're getting
Michael
that money
can speak to
back?
that process.
So-
I'm not involved in that.
Every year we have a meeting with what we call the building manager of Pineville, which includes 3 of us from COCC, 3 people from the county. And we agree to how much we're going to contribute into a fund, which is held by the county. So right now, we've been contributing 50,000 for a number of years with them. They match it and they put it into this account. And then whenever we have a request to upgrade that building, we have that meeting and we agree to what we should fund from that account held at the county. So we're basically spending funds of ours to get reimbursed by half from the county.
Reimbursed by half?
No, that's not true entirely.
Okay.
Because they have all the funds.
Do we own that building or does the county own that building?
So
Yes.
I've heard a number of stories about that. Laura, you might. Do we own that building? Do they own that building?
I think it's the sheriff.
The county owns it.
Okay.
I do think the county owns it.
But we own all the other buildings that we work at.
Yeah, 40 split, they own 60, we own 40, they own the land. They own the land that it's on, building. Is a 60-40 split. We though, do all the operations day.
I know we do all the operations.
We donated the land to them, if I remember correctly. It's a shared ownership, but the college donated that land to the.
No, that land belonged to the county. That was part of the fairgrounds land.
It was.
Yes, that definitely part of the fairgrounds. And I actually know someone that I can text and I can get all the answers right now because he was involved in that. So just, we'll keep going.
So recently, we agreed to increase our annual contribution to this fund. So that it'll go from, I think it's 75,000 next year that will contribute. They'll contribute 75,000, continue to do that till we're both contributing 100,000. And we make sure that building remains in really good shape.
Is that for operations of that building or just for upkeep, or what is that fund used for generally?
Major repairs, IT upgrades, major repairs, furniture, fixtures and equipment. Those are the 3 things.
I found it, Laura, if you need it, I can send it to you. You're right, it was developed with a bond measure, land donated by the county to COCC, joint ownership building shared.
Great. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Under the item B, options and analysis, could you clarify how this marriage is working with the descriptive under option B? I could read it, but everyone else can read it faster.
Okay, so you want me to explain where it says options under B?
Correct. Why are we not just contracting directly with Conference Technologies and not going through this OMNIA audiovisual solutions?
That it is the same company. They have like a DBA. CTI is their DBA. Omnia Audiovisual is their full name, but CTI is their like whatever DBA name, what they go by. So it is the same company. Is that what you're asking? It's not 2 different companies.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, they're the most local vendor, and they can also provide ongoing support once the install happens in case there are issues. Otherwise, we have to go to Portland, and then one will pay more because they have to travel, and 2, we wouldn't have a local resource to provide technical support. Does that help? It is one company.
No, I appreciate that. I understand that. It's kind of like having, my wife is Laura, but sometimes I call her Susie. So if as long as I know the same person.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? And hopefully I answered that one satisfactorily. The intent on this would be to start working as soon as it's approved. We have quotes that have informed this resolution, but then of course sign a contract. And then we've been working with Susie Christensen to identify like times that it could work because the building is used. So it would be, as soon as we can get equipment here, it's possible we could start as early as May. And then work around schedules for classes. So the intent is imminent to get this done. Definitely by fall.
Okay, any other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion. Be it resolved that the Central Oregon Community College Board of Directors approves $190,000 for Information Technology Services and Conference Technologies, Inc. to upgrade the audio-visual system at the Prineville campus.
Second.
Okay, first and seconded. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, so that was everyone, none opposed,
Great.
motion approved.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, so next up, we have 2026-27 tuition and fees rates.
I don't know if I have a lot to add, from what I said before. But the recommendation is to increase in-district, tuition rates per credit by $5.50, non-resident veterans by $6.75. Out of district border state by $8, out of state international by $17.50, and increase the technology fee by $1 to bring that to $19.50. The options are to approve proposed tuition and fee rates, not to approve them, or propose modifications to the recommended rate. The increase would improve revenue by about $808 for 27.
I will make a motion to approve the tuition and fee rates. And just say that I don't think any of us wants to raise rates and stuff, but I think we saw pretty compellingly in the analysis of the budget we've done over the last several months that we really don't have a choice, and I think this is a good balancing. Anyway, so that's the first part's my motion, the rest of it is editorializing.
Yes, thank you.
But we usually raise it 3%, so it's just a little bit more.
And I think Aaron seconded.
Yeah, so Aaron seconded, now we're in the questions and comments, so Alan, you were on
I just
time.
made my comment.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I think the other piece is we don't want to have to do 7 or 8% in 1 year. That's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to have it slowly increase. So, we have students that are planning on coming here, students that are already in programs, so it doesn't hit them harder than it needs to. It's a more gradual increase.
No, you're right. If we don't keep up, we end up having to catch up, and that is very impactful to students.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Well, I got a question, not that it's that, there are some places I've heard that they have, they keep you start your freshman year, your tuition is set, and then every year stays that way. You don't get these big increases. We don't do that, but have we thought about that?
What do you mean, set at it stays at the same rate?
Same rate, yeah, so you know that you're going in with what you're gonna be costing for your.
My daughter's university did that. They promised them that if you finish in 4 years, your tuition won't go up.
That's typically what you see is as the university where students are coming in more traditional lockstep and aren't starting and stopping out to the degree that our students are.
Yeah.
Also aren't going part-time, vast majority over the course of the year, 85% of our students go part-time in one academic quarter or more. And so trying to give accurate information to a student as to what their tuition might be changes wildly in a community college setting because the ebb and flow of our students compared to the guaranteed tuition program at the university.
Okay.
Boy, considering the dynamics of the environment, the funding from the federal and our state, that could really set you up for catastrophic increases. credit, like Michael said, we live in a constantly changing fiscal environment. That'd be tough. I think. I think it's a good plan. I just was curious.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, there. And Joe, I saw your hand. Very good. Okay, and so that was all of us. None opposed. Next up on the agenda, we have the employer incentive fund deposit.
The Oregon legislature passed a bill that would provide matching funds to any governmental agency that wanted to create a PERS side account. And there was limitations about how much you could contribute, but basically our college could contribute up to 8.3 million to the PERS side account and receive a 25% match by the state. We presented to the investment committee. They thought it was a good opportunity. They asked me to provide you with an analysis of contributing 2, 3, 4, and 5 million in deposits for you to consider. On the June 25th, I presented that information to the board in a special meeting, and the board agreed to contribute 5 million deposit. Unfortunately, soon thereafter, due to increases in construction costs for Madras, increased salaries, wages, benefits, and other cost pressures, our fund balance went from 8.7 million on June 30th, 2025 to 8.9 million projected for June 30th of 2026, dropping our reserve ratio from 30.16 to 11.67% over that period of time. I came to a board meeting on March 11th to let you know that I think we should refrain from making that deposit. So the option analysis, the board has the option to fund PERS side accounts from 0 to 8,267,000. I went to PERS and told them before the due date of that deposit that we would be unable to do it, and I'll let the board know that. And this is just a formal process to say that the board agrees to those steps.
That we ratify what you did, basically.
Yeah.
I move that we ratify the decision not to put any funds toward this.
Thank you.
Collectively, but realistically, yeah.
Okay,
Second.
so moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
It's a great opportunity that we just can't step into because of pressures.
I know it's money on the table that would be able to help us in the long run, but not the time for it. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That was all of us, and then opposed.
Can I just thank Michael, because he put a lot of work into this all the way
Yes,
around, and
thank you.
it's unfortunate how it all happened, but I think you gave us good advice, both last year and now.
Michael. Okay, so now we're in Board of Directors operations. So we have the proposed revisions to board policies.
Yeah, and that is me. So the first one is GP7, and this is the board planning cycle. And mostly what we did, you guys can see, we just tried at Aaron's suggestion. Aaron Merz's suggestion was really good. The calendar that we put together for things that what we're going to cover and when we're going to cover them should really match the board planning cycle. That seemed like a pretty good idea. So we made the two work together, and then the committee also recommended that we start in July with the planning cycle because while it had always started in January, the reality is that our year starts in July 1. So we revised it that way. And so I think that what we've done now is added some things that were on the calendar that really should be in the planning cycle. And I think cleaned it up a little bit and it made it consistent. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or additional comments or things that they'd like to change, but if not, we're asking for a first read on this. It's just so much fun that we're not gonna move to the next one. So this is our debt level in management, and you heard Michael talk a little bit about that. You guys, just to briefly remind everybody, we had spent a retreat a couple years ago talking about what our, oh no, I'm sorry, that's not, oh yeah, that's the reserve policy, sorry. This is debt management and issuance, and Michael correctly pointed out that we should update this policy, and so this is one of the ones that the committee had reviewed. And so I think that the first page that you have is just the one change we made from the last draft, but I think you want to go look at BEP 8 that's got, it's pretty much new and crossed out. And what Michael did was, maybe I'll let Michael talk about it, because Michael went and looked at what several other folks did and made sure that we have all the components that we should have, right? Essentially, best practices.
Yeah, it forces us to create a plan if we drop down below 10% in reserve, which is necessary.
No, this is our debt level. This is our debt level.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I know I started to do the same thing. This is about issuing bonds and borrowing and such.
Yeah, I looked at other colleges and I did a high level board policy on what needs to take place if we do issue bonds, financial analysis, hiring somebody to help us do it. I mean, it's just pretty standard across colleges. Some go into a great amount of detail, but for a board level policy, I don't think that's.
Yeah, and this is interesting because it is, Mike wrote it in compliance with Oregon law, because there are a couple of provisions in Oregon law about what the college is supposed to do when it's incurring debt. One of them that's interesting is that we have a debt limit, and statutorily, it's only on our general obligation debt. So it doesn't have to do with other kinds of debt. And it's 50%. We've decided to limit it to, or we're proposing that we limit it to 50% of the debt district's legal general obligation debt capacity. Our capacity is something like 1% of the total value of all land owned in our district. So it works out to be something like the 1% or whatever, the half of the 1% is like $700 million. We would not in this, we would not incur. So there's no worries that we're hemming ourselves in here at all. But it's nice that we gave ourselves a number that is lower than our, maximum. Isn't that kind of like shocking?
In the previous policy also commented on a basically state treasurer rule about when you should look at refinancing. We decided to take that part out because it can change from time to time to make sure that our policy is always correct.
So we'd like this to also constitute a first movement for this particular policy. Any questions or comments? But don't sit down, Michael, because now we're on general fund reserve policy. And you also had a lot to do with the revisions on this. Y'all know that this came out of us realizing after our, we had a much higher number, which we thought was really prudent, but it's just not realistic right now. So, Michael, do you want to?
Well, I think Laura had some good recommendations on this to set a basically a floor. So in no way should we ever go below 10%, which is only 37 days of reserve, which would make it really tight for the college to operate. So if we ever do that, we need to immediately create a plan so that we get above the 10% number. But our goal is 60 days. So we're trying to hit 60 days. If it falls below 60 days, we have to have a plan that we get over 60 days within 3 years. Our current budget actually reflects a plan where we get to 60 days within 3 years. And I think it's just prudent to have closer to 60 days than 37.
But we don't have to hit the panic button until we get to 37.
Yeah.
Right.
But we do have to kind of have a plan. So we thought on our committee that this was consistent with kind of where the board was going when we've had some discussions about it since. So.
And even at 60 days, it is consistent with other community colleges. I think there's one that has a 5%. reserve ratio requirement, but I think that's madness. But others have 10%, which is still pretty low, and we have that as a worst case scenario under this proposal.
Michael, is there any or SOAR guidance on this at all?
None.
No, it's just kind of hangs out there. And when you say days, are you talking about calendar days or are you talking about operational days?
So how I calculated it is I take total annual expenditures and divide it by 365 to come up with average day spend. And then divide our general fund ending balance by the day, the average spend per day to get them up.
So calendar days.
Calendar days, yeah. Got it. Thank you. I'm saying there's no bad in
Any other questions or comments? If not, can we consider this the first read? And then before we move on, I just have one more thing I wanted to say. I wanted to give out, we have a really phenomenal committee. I'm not lying. I mean, I know I'm biased because I'm 1/3 of it, but we've got great advice from Michael on these, and from Greg has helped us rewriting some of the policies too, which we're going to be bringing back next time, some more policies. But one of the things that this committee came up with was let's keep track. We've got all of these dates on the policies. When you pull up the policies, it says, look, revised or whatever. And we're going to change that now. And now I see this and we're going to, oh yeah. It gets a little bit cumbersome to have that all on our website. So we thought, let's have a spreadsheet that we're going to maintain. And so Kyle is maintaining it. I actually had my assistant help me prepare it, but it keeps it in one place, all of our policies, when they were created and then when they were revised. And then one of the recommendations from our committee was, in the future, instead of necessarily having a revised date, let's have a reviewed date, because we don't necessarily change the policy when we review it. We usually do because we can always improve, but not necessarily. And at least that way we always know when we're, how recently have we looked at it. And the other good thing, which I think I alluded to, and you will see when you look at this, is that we don't have very many policies that haven't been reviewed in the last 5 years. And the ones that we haven't are high priority. Either they're among the ones being viewed today, or they're ones that are going to come up very shortly. So I think our committee is in really, really good shape after kind of taking a little bit of a hiatus last year. So would you mind making your giant paper? Those last couple columns will say review or revised in the future.
Madam Chair, can I make one comment about
Yes.
Jim's question? Is that accreditation agencies often ask about your reserve policy.
Okay.
And they loved our old reserve policy. The other organization that asks about reserve policy quite a bit is the credit rating agency, who also loved our old policy. I think they'll like our new one, but they monitor that.
So an appropriate answer when somebody asks why our reserves are what they are is to meet accreditation and to meet our credit rating.
Yes, because the higher the credit rating, the lower.
Yes.
So that.
Borrowing costs.
Totally. Thank you. That's the answer that I was looking for.
But isn't this cool that we have now a spreadsheet?
Great.
So we don't have to have all that messy stuff on the top and
Wonderful.
we're making stuff happen. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura.
And you can skip me now on B under 2B.
Okay. Okay, all right, so now we are moving on to committee updates, and we have an advocacy committee update from Karen.
We're gonna have a little assist tonight. Maybe on our next board meeting. We're gonna maybe do some talking quests tonight. Yeah. Oh, but let's hold it for next time. So what we've been working on is just thinking a little bit about how to. Now that the legislative session is closed, we don't have a lot of high level advocacy priorities, but outreach is an opportunity right now. And so we were thinking a little bit about the need for us all to just get some facts and figures at our fingertips and how we talk about some of the priorities of the college. Lucas had done some great work in the fall. You did bring, and you can pass those out. We might as well do that. And we'll bring to you at our next meeting, just a few more of those, talking points.
And do we worked on, or do we have plan yet to get someone from the ASCOCC, like have to sort of have a standing come to us every month if they want to?
That's a great question. And I think we were thinking of that as a periodic thing. But there was a liaison.
Talia is here, she's the president, obviously.
The liaison who had been assigned, ended up stepping down from her position. But we should revive this.
Just so they know that we would love to hear from them every month if they want to come talk to us for a couple minutes.
I mean,
Who
or we
was
do
that?
share that regularly, and it's ASC year to year based on. the
Oh my God,
student government.
okay.
Well, let's make a formal invitation. again.
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking,
Let
is it'd be
them know
nice if
again.
we just let them know, we'd
Yeah.
like to hear from you, but on your timeline.
Yeah.
We also just discussed that, there's an election happening next month, and so we just may have some new elected leaders in our district, and so we're gonna just keep an eye on all of that and some, well, depending on those outcomes and doing some outreach there.
And we're passing around the campus close-up,
Oh,
so
sorry.
feel free to take a couple, no, just feel free to take a couple with you, that's a good resource when people ask you about the college, it's sort of the quick.
Oh, yeah, we were asking about the handbook
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah, and so then the idea is like kind of a companion piece to this piece for like just that will be refreshed regularly with talking points and what's going on around campus.
Yeah.
I am going to DC in a week and I have appointments with all of our legislators to talk about housing policy, but I can mention, I was just mentioning to Greg, I can piggyback some stuff.
An underachiever.
Laura. Oh, I don't know.
And by the way, I'm going to DC and have appointments.
My daughter lives there.
I know
I'm
you
going to
do.
visit her. What should I say? I thought I would multitask.
I mean, the only other thing that's sort of breaking news is the email that Greg sent around today regarding the budget. And I bet you may be wanting to talk about that in your report.
Yeah, I can do
So
that.
I will not steal your thunder, but
Steal
that
away.
is and pretty high priority in terms of needing advocacy from across the community college universe. Yeah. So we have more to discuss in our upcoming meeting.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, and then we're skipping policy review because we did it, right? We did enough. And now we're to board member activities, and Kyle can hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so Joe, would you like to start? You're on mute.
Thanks. I have nothing to report. So on to the next one.
Thank you, Joe. Erin?
On March 12th, I attended the policy committee meeting. On March 19th, I attended another policy committee meeting, and on March 20th, I attended the advocacy committee meeting.
Thank you, Erin.
And I don't know what the date was. A couple weeks ago, I attended by Zoom the Oregon Community College Association budget.
Thank you, Alan. Jim?
On the 13th, I had a phone conversation with you and Greg. On the 19th, I attended the lunch and learn, where they're covering the incidents around the state. So it's a Zoom thing, the colleges. On the 25th, I had a phone meeting with you and Greg. How about if I just send these?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do for Kyle.
I'm like a third of the way down. It's been a busy month.
There's been a few communications.
Yeah,
one
Yeah.
or two.
So, yes, Laura?
Can Erin go first and can I?
Yes.
Because I think I've got
I
something.
will slowly, I have very little to say though. I attended the advocacy committee meeting on the 20th of March.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I had the policy committee on the 12th and the 19th. I had a call with Erica on the 7th of this month. That was March, and I had a call with Erica on the 7th. And then I spent quite a bit of time drafting policy, so I'm just gonna point that out as an activity.
Well, I mean, you did give us.
And then I wanted to give something because Michael is retiring, as we all know, although we've got a couple more months. But I saw this, and because I was getting one for Erica and Greg, 'cause it's something we talked about forever, and it's something that Michael really has, since Michael joined us, he has done a lot to try to streamline and modernize many of our policies that relate to operations and finance to try to, improve efficiencies and reduce costs and save staff time. And inevitably, I am sure he has been met with, but we always have done it this way. So I have this for you, Michael.
I like how this is falling under board member activities.
Cheating, right? I know, Mom. You like it. Oh, okay.
Tradition, just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. Thank you very much.
I just got a bullfight photo on it. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Laura. And I think I was at both policy committee meetings.
Yeah.
Wasn't I?
Yeah,
And then,
you were.
okay, I was, and the advocacy committee, and then there's been a number of communications, so I'll send Kyle, wherever you are, I know he's in the next room, because his laptop was dying. I'll send you the dates.
Thanks, Erica.
You're welcome. Okay, next is the president's report.
There's a lot going on, but we've been here a long time already, so I'm going to give you a very abridged version of it. You might remember House Bill 4124. That was the one about universities and community colleges merging and sharing services. It was sort of a very vague thing. So it passed in the legislature. They put together a group to work on that. They asked for volunteers for each of the community colleges. I thought that was a pretty important one, so I'm just doing it myself. We've met once. It's an external, consultant group that's through the state of Oregon, so they're taking feedback, but I'm involved in that, so I'll give you some regular updates. As Aaron alluded to, I sent you all ACCT's overview of President Trump's budget request to Congress that was recently sent out on a Friday. Budget request or budget request, and Congress will do its own thing. It's an election year. It's sort of hard to predict what's going to happen, but there are some very significant cuts that are proposed in that would greatly impact us. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 current federal funds and initiatives that the recommendation is to completely eliminate funding for. That includes basic needs, childcare access. Federal work study would be decreased by $1 billion, a 90% cut. TRIO, which we just got our first TRIO grant, the recommendation is to completely eliminate that. All adult basic education grants that go to the state. So again, we'll see what happens, but it's definitely something we want to monitor, as there would be significant impact to all of education, not just us. Just a few other things. I'll be in the city of Culver tomorrow at Culver High School, which I have not been to Culver before, but the principal of Culver High School actually reached out to me randomly a couple weeks ago to say that COCC has changed their high school with our dual enrollment program. They said that the success they've had there is absolutely unbelievable, that it's students who weren't even coming to school at all are now coming every morning to take these classes. So with that kind of rave review, I was like, I'm coming to Culver. Let's see.
Kidding.
So I'm gonna go there tomorrow at 8 a.m. It'll be good. And we'll learn more about those programs and see the amazing work, but that's great. The other thing is a group of us are going to Meta out in Prineville, April 16th. So we got an invitation. We met with them at a recent economic development meeting, and they invited us out to their community action grant reception and tour of the data center. So we thought that's a great opportunity for us to make some inroads. Appreciate all the work Cindy's done on that and many others. So some good progress in that area, as again, it's a very important entity in Central Oregon that we want to partner with. And then finally, and no commentary from me, it's just informational. OSU Cascades has announced that they're going into new leadership. So Sherm will no longer be at OSU Cascades. Becky Johnson is the interim for the time being. I met with her on Friday, and we'll see where it goes from there. That's my report.
Everything old is new.
Everything old is new.
Okay, thank you, Greg. And next up on the agenda, we have some dates. So I'm gonna go through them quickly, but I think it's worth reading them. So Thursday, April 9th, which is tomorrow, we have the Policy Review Committee. Thursday, April 9th is Season of Nonviolence Native and Indigenous Documentary Screening. That's in Madras. Saturday, April 11th, we have Design and Build Regional Innovation Jam, Cascade Hall. Saturday, April 11th, COCC Foundation's Meal of the Year fundraiser. Yay!
Sold out.
Woo! It's cocktail effect for Zach over there.
Thank you for all that are coming. Appreciate it.
Sunday, April 12th, COCC OSU Cascades soccer match on Mazama Field. Tuesday, April 14th, Chandler Lecture Series, The Science of Connecting in a Lonely World with Scott Crabtree. Thursday, April 16th, COCC Math Contest on the Bend campus. Friday, April 17th, COCC Preview Day on the Bend campus. Friday, April 17th, Advocacy Committee meeting, and that is on Zoom. Friday, April 17th, Earth Day Fashion Show, Sustainable Shopping, and that's in Wiley Hall. Monday, Lily. Thank you. You know what? Right before it, I was like, I'm gonna mess this up. And then I did because that was the thought in my head. Okay. Monday, April 27th, Real Estate Committee meeting. Tuesday, April 28th, Chandler Lecture Series, Staying Human in the AI Age with Helen and Dave Edwards. Thursday, April 30th, Madras Campus Expansion Grand Opening. Thursday, May 7th, COCC Jungle Run. Wednesday, May 13th, Board of Directors meeting with the Budget Committee. And then Saturday, May 16th is the COCC Salmon Bake. So we wanted to add that in, even though it's over a month away, so people could get it on their calendars. Okay, so that concludes this part of our open session. We're going to adjourn to executive session and then come out of executive back into open session, which sometimes we don't do that, but we will be doing that today. Okay, so I'm going to adjourn to executive. No, I'm going to read this. The COCC Board of Directors will now meet in executive session for the purpose of ORS 192.660, Section 2, Subsection D, labor negotiations, and ORS 192.660, Section 1, Subsection I, performance evaluation of the CEO. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed to not report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back in the room.
And Berkeley, you're good.
Okay, so we've adjourned the executive session and we're now in open session and we are on new business. So 2025-28 classified negotiations. So we have a resolution in our packet here. Just want to say thank you to Laura, Andrew, and Greg for all your time and energy on this. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Central Oregon Community College hereby approves the 2025 through 2028 collective bargaining agreement between COCC and the Classified Association of COCC as negotiated.
Can we get a second? I'll second. Thank you, Erin. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just reiterate what you said. Thank you very much to our team. It's been a long process and probably wasn't always fun, but we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye and or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, so that is all of us, none opposed, so this passes. Okay, and so that is the end, and we will now adjourn. Have a good evening, everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't